Welcome to Motivation Stories Vault, where we explore the profound journeys of the human spirit and the wisdom of silence. Meet Ethan, a devoted son with a heart of gold, but a temper that flared quickly like a dry forest fire. He believed that defending his family's honor meant fighting every battle and answering every single insult with a louder shout. For him, silence was a sign of weakness, and he refused to let anyone speak ill of those he loved. One evening, he returned home exhausted from a dispute, expecting praise, but found his father sitting in calm disappointment. His father looked at him deeply and said that he was only exhausting himself by reacting to every little provocation. He told Ethan that by losing his temper, he was giving his enemies exactly what they wanted: control over him. Ethan listened but did not understand, feeling that walking away was an act of cowardice rather than an act of strength. Life continued until a rude merchant named Darian arrived in their peaceful village, bringing noise and arrogance with him. Darian was a man who enjoyed belittling others to feel superior, insulting the hard work of the simple village people. He walked through the market, laughing at their poverty and calling their honest labor nothing more than a waste of time. Ethan stood nearby, his blood boiling as he heard the merchant's cruel words directed at his friends and neighbors. The urge to rush forward and teach this man a lesson was overwhelming. His muscles tensed, ready for a fight. He was about to scream, but suddenly he remembered his father's warning about giving away his power to the enemy. It was a moment of intense internal conflict, a war between his old habits and the new wisdom he sought. The merchant saw Ethan's anger and smirked, waiting for the young man to explode so he could create a scene. Instead of shouting, Ethan took a deep breath, unclenched his fists, and made the hardest choice of his life. He turned his back on the insult and walked away, leaving the merchant without the reaction he so desperately craved. Darian shouted more insults, trying to bait him back, but Ethan kept walking, though his heart pounded with adrenaline. Once out of sight, he leaned against a wall, shaking not from fear, but from the immense effort of restraint. He felt a sting of shame, wondering if the villagers thought he was a coward for not striking the man. That evening, he sat by the river, questioning his decision and feeling the heavy burden of his wounded pride. Mrs. Carter, the village elder known for her wisdom, approached him quietly and sat down without saying a word. She saw the turmoil in his eyes and knew exactly what battle the young man was fighting within himself. She pointed a trembling finger at the bright moon above and asked him a simple yet profound question. She asked Ethan if the moon ever barks back, when the dogs on earth howl and bark at it. Ethan shook his head, realizing that the moon remains majestic and unaffected, no matter how much noise is made. She explained that true strength is like the moon. It does not need to prove its existence to the noise. Then she pointed to the river and told him to observe how the water flows around the hard, unmoving rocks. The water does not fight the rock. It simply flows around it. Yet eventually, the water wears the rock down. Ethan realized that fighting the rock would only hurt the water, but flowing around it preserved the water's momentum. The next morning, Ethan walked through the village with a new aura of calm, ready to test his new understanding. Darian was back, louder than ever, screaming at vendors and trying to provoke anyone who dared to look at him. The villagers braced for violence, but Ethan simply stood there, watching the merchant with a look of pity, not anger. The merchant turned his rage on Ethan, hurling every insult he could think of, trying to break his composure. Ethan remained silent, standing like a mountain, letting the insults pass through him like wind through the trees. Seeing Ethan's reaction, the villagers stopped murmuring. They too became quiet, stripping the merchant of his audience. Confusion replaced the merchant's anger. He was used to fear and conflict, but he did not know how to handle silence. Without a reaction to fuel his fire, Darian's shouting seemed foolish and empty, echoing awkwardly in the quiet square. Ethan quietly turned to help a vendor pick up fallen fruit, treating the merchant as if he wasn't even there. The message was clear and contagious. The village collectively decided that the merchant's negativity was not worth their attention. Stripped of his power and influence, Darian stood alone, his face flushing red with embarrassment rather than rage. He retreated to his carriage, defeated not by fists or weapons, but by the overwhelming strength of a united silence. As the carriage rolled away, the village remained peaceful, having won a great victory without throwing a single punch. The villagers surrounded Ethan, not cheering for a brawl, but expressing deep respect for his incredible self-control. Ethan smiled, looking towards Mrs. Carter's home, finally understanding that he had protected his honor better than ever before. Later, he visited Mrs. Carter, who handed him a small, dusty wooden box as a final gift for his journey. Inside the box lay an old mirror, simple yet revealing, reflecting Ethan's face with crystal-clear clarity. She told him to look into this mirror whenever he felt the urge to fight or argue in the future. She advised him to ask himself if he was fighting for a true purpose, or just because he feared silence. Ethan hung the mirror in his room, a constant reminder that the greatest battles are often fought within our own minds. Years passed, and Ethan grew into a leader, teaching others that reacting to negativity only amplifies its power. When asked about strength, he would simply point to the river and the moon, sharing the wisdom he had received. He finally understood his father's words, that true dignity comes not from winning arguments, but from rising above them. He became a peacemaker, resolving conflicts not with force, but with the disarming power of listening and patience. He learned that anger is like a fire. If you do not feed it with reaction, it will eventually die out. Ethan found peace in the silence of the forest, realizing that nature never hurries, yet everything is accomplished. The mirror remained his faithful companion, reflecting a man who had mastered the art of being powerful without being loud. Life will always send storms and noisy merchants your way, trying to shake your foundation and steal your peace. But like Ethan, you have the choice to be the mountain, standing firm and letting the storm pass around you. True power is not about controlling others or having the last word. It is about having complete control over yourself. When you choose silence over argument, you preserve your energy for things that truly matter in your life. Just as he learned from his father, Ethan passed this legacy of emotional intelligence down to the next generation. The village thrived not because they were the strongest fighters, but because they learned the wisdom of selective reaction. Remember the moon. It shines brightly regardless of the darkness around it or the noise from below. Remember the water. It is soft and yielding, yet it cuts through the hardest rock, through persistence and flow. Ethan's journey reminds us that the ego wants to be right, but the soul wants to be at peace. So the next time you are provoked, look into the mirror of your own conscience and choose your battle wisely. Ask yourself if the victory is worth the noise, or if the true triumph lies in the power of silence. In a world that can't stop talking, the person who can stay silent is the one who truly holds the power. Let Ethan's story be a guide for you to navigate the noisy markets of your own life with grace. Thank you for joining us on this journey of discovery. We hope this story has touched your heart today. If you found value in this video, please share it with someone who might need to hear this message. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel, so you never miss a story that could change your life. This is Motivation Stories Vault. Remember that true power is not in the noise, but in the silence. Goodbye.